Welcome to the Inspired Evolution, and it is such a treat to be here today. Today we have the vibes from not one, but two awesome guests. We've got Jen and Jamin. So where do I begin? Do I say welcome, guys, and then I go into all the awesomeness that's going on? Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be on the show, Amrit.
Yeah, really excited to connect, man. We've known each other for a few years now, but to engage in this context is really, really exciting, mate.
Mate, I'm so thrilled to have you guys here. For those that are tuning in, these guys are the co-founders of Mountains and Marathons, the most adventurous leadership program. Basically, Mountains and Marathons is a 6-month leadership program. You develop courage, clarity, and confidence. These are amazingly deep things that you're instilling and holding space for people to find within themselves, and they're doing this in a really amazing way. I can't wait to dive into this. All the programs finish with an epic physical challenge, as is insinuated by Mountains and Marathons. You run a marathon or climb a mountain in one of the world's most extraordinary locations. Some of the places you guys have been, like, I'm so jealous. Obviously, the first one was back home here in Great Ocean Road. They've been to France, Mont Blanc. They just did Patagonia. Mount Kilimanjaro happened as well. There's one that's coming up, and I'm not sure if I meant to say that just yet, but they're going to the Great Wall of China, which is insane. I can't wait for that. But yeah, formally, just to share a little bit about guys. So Jen is a strategic intervention coach certified by the official training school of Tony Robbins. She holds a Master's of Science degree in strategy and innovation. And before she co-founded the amazingness that is Mountains and Marathons, she worked with over 100 purpose-driven businesses in Europe, New Zealand, and Australia. And she did this to she led an impact investing initiative that supported mission-driven entrepreneurs towards their first capital raise, right? So this had her work and study all around the world, and now she's a passionate leadership coach and endurance athlete. In terms of Jamin, I've never had to do 2 intros before, so this is amazing. So we've got Jamin, and before co-founding Mountains and Marathons, Jamin was a director of 3 leadership organizations centered around development of health and resilience. He had the privilege of working with over 15,000 people from diverse communities across Australia and North America. And I'm keen to dive into this story a little bit as well, brother, because he's bounced back from burnout, depression, and 7 major surgeries. He knows what it's like to struggle and what it takes to transform, and he's committed to peak health and performance and supporting others to do the same. What a combination in the pair of yous.
So good.
Beautiful.
Let me go straight into it, guys. Like, why Mountains and Marathons?
Well, mate, I think that probably takes us back to the to the conception of why Mountains and Marathons kind of got created in the first place. And even just touching on the final piece of the intro there of me going through a personal journey of being broke, burnout, and bloody busy. It was 2.5 years ago, and at that stage, Amrit, I personally, based in Melbourne, were running 3 independent companies, all at their core were focused around social change and community development, whether that was working with parents to become more fit and healthy, or working with young sporting leaders to cultivate greater culture in their grassroots club, or even working with teenage boys around cultivating greater emotional intelligence.
Amazing. All
of these things coming together just had me, constantly giving more of myself. And, to use the analogy of your cup being full before you can then, give to others, I was just continuing to take from the reserve tank more and more.
Yeah.
And I found myself in the middle of 2016 just really asking myself the question, like, what's this really all about? I'm not feeling well and solid and stable within myself. It doesn't matter how much, good all of these creations are having in my community. If I'm not able to show up and just be fully well myself and just be a complete being, I don't know what this is all about. And so really at that time, I just went on a deep inquiry of like, the source of my suffering is actually all my own creation. Therefore, there are choices I've made that have led to this point. So I'm actually in the empowered place to make other choices that can create a whole new future. And so from that place, man, I asked myself the question. I said, there were two questions. The first one was, if I were to live my most values-aligned life, how would my life be different? And then the follow-up question to that was, okay, if I could do anything in the world right now, what would I be doing? And the result of the combination of that inquiry was literally come that same evening when I asked those questions, was I would be running marathons and climbing mountains all over the world, and I'd be enabling other people to come on the journey and transform their life, taking on the same pursuit. And at the time, there was like, what is the business model? What is this?
Thanks for the vision, universe. Head, get going. Amazing.
Yeah, man. And so, coming to the guts of the why of it really is about creating an adventurous opportunity to really transform your life from one stage to the next in whatever context that is. And so whether that's an athlete transitioning from being a professional athlete into post-career retirement, and what does that look like? Or someone who is really looking to transition career and is kind of stuck where they are but knows there's something else out there for them. Or whether it's someone who's transitioning through a divorce or a relationship breakdown, is looking to move on to that next stage of life. Really it's about being at the source of personal transformation, so people can move from one stage of life to another. And we just happen to center around epic physical challenge in extraordinary locations around the world. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's got an energy of rites of passage about it. But Jen, what's your was this just a Jamin idea? And you were like, let's get it.
It was interesting, because Jamin and I, we met in February last year, which was about 8 months after he had the original vision for Mountains and Marathons. And at that stage, Jamin was already basically getting back sucked into history organizations, and it was more like a thought in the back of his head, an unrealized dream. And that basically came out a couple of weeks or months into us dating, into our relationship. And back then, when Jamin shared with me that he had the vision of running a marathon and climbing a mountain every continent, I was like, that's good for you. Because a little bit about my backstory, I grew up as a super unfit child. I've never done any sports, and early in my life, I've made up this whole identity of I'm a person who can't do much physically. And never have run more than 5Ks in my life, etc. I got a bit into weightlifting, actually quite a bit into weightlifting between the ages of about 18 to 26. But at the same time, when Jamin shared that with me, I was like, no, I can't do this. Now, it happened that a couple of weeks later, I did a leadership program that really had a big impact on my life myself. And it had me realize that I have made up that story, right? And that there was actually nothing physically holding me back from going out there and running marathons and climbing mountains. And that night I said to Jamin, you know what, we're going to do this together. And so that was about our personal journey. And at the same time, Amrit, I was at a stage where I was in a job in a small not-for-profit organization that I absolutely loved, and I absolutely loved what I did in terms of what it stood for in the world, supporting social enterprises, impact-driven businesses to raise investment and grow and scale. But I wasn't really challenged in that role anymore. And I knew that I had to get out of it, and I didn't know what was next. And so as we then were actually drafting the business model for Mountains and Marathons and determining that it was a leadership company centering around epic physical challenge, that was exactly what I was looking for myself. And so, in the end, it was really just a big inquiry into, I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I'm curious about the person I have to become on the other side. And this whole question of that's really been at the source of all our programs.
I love that so deeply, the whole idea of conquest and journey, and I think that's obviously embedded in Mountains and Marathons, and you probably foresaw that, but I never saw that as being the very next question, is like the whole idea of just that being like curiosity on who you'll become on the other side, and just allowing that to drive you. There's two things that I really want to, the really deep things that both of you have discussed. Jen talking about identity there, like when you like hold on to your stories and you can like actually unweave into whatever story like you can hold on to. And also like Jamin's story about like the belief of like giving, because like we've known each other for a while, and you've like the energy of giving, you'd think that if you were giving you'd be receiving, but I think there's a really potent message in there as well, is that it's not just about like keeping your cup full as well, like coming into like a place of really looking after yourself. And like the stories that were in there prior to that, I'm a bit curious about what has been like the most I guess what has been the continual like thing that you guys have been shedding again and again in terms of stories. Like what are you interfacing with the most on your journey?
For me, man, it's probably continually confronting imposter syndrome of like, who the hell am I to do this?
Yeah.
And so it really, but then it really does come down to like, it's like I'll wake up and I'll be like, man, what are you even doing? And then it's interesting because it's kind of like that thought is there, and then I'm just like, you know what? Like, no, where this got created from was such a place of like a deep inquiry, and it's just like monkey brain kind of playing it. Like, thank you. Like, yeah, I'm like, I acknowledge that you're there, but it's like, no, this is what you're stepping into here. Yeah, it's scary, and there is so much uncertainty that I can be living with. But I'm also like, I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Of course.
This is where it's at. And I think, I endlessly have those moments when, inside of this, as much as Jen and I are doing a lot of coaching, we've also got to be really responsible for our own health and fitness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you'll have these moments when I'm on a training run, and I'll just like, and then when we're in Argentina, I look up at the Andes, at the snow-capped mountains, and I'm just like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, had I and had Jen not said yes to this, for me 2.5 years ago, Jen 18 months ago, like none of what we're experiencing right now would be possible, and the contribution that we're able to be to other people, and at the same time, be confronting our own limiting beliefs and continually tackling those things that come up where we're like, I don't know how we're going to go here, but going into that rough and tumble and that roller coaster is what is really. It continues to fuel our own growth inside of this journey while we support others to do the same.
Amazing. I absolutely love the humility with which you shared that as well, brother. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really, as you're sharing, I can feel that, the whole imposter syndrome has that idea of like faking it till you make it or something. But I think what you shared there was like, when you're in the space where you're actually doing what you're meant to be doing, and that deep inquiry is being satisfied, you feel like, no, this is where I'm meant to be, So all your
no question.
Yeah, so all that sort of dissolves when you're actually doing what you're meant to be doing. That's such a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Jen, how's it weaving for you?
Yeah, just to actually, just to build on that as well, I completely agree. And like often having the same struggles, imposter syndrome and so on. And what I've noticed for myself is that it's usually when I'm not feeling good, or when the bad stories are coming up, or the stories that are holding me back, it comes from a place of comparison. Right, it comes in the moments when I'm thinking, where do I think I should be being, or what do I think we should be doing, or what would other people have achieved in this moment right now, right? So when I'm just feeling centered in myself and just connected, as you just said, right, doing the work we're supposed to be doing, because I really believe what we're doing right now is what we're supposed to be doing, and where we can create so much value for the world and for people. Yeah, but usually it's the moments of comparison that are throwing me back, and I'm becoming better at noticing that and at catching that, because I think we've all heard the quotes of comparison like being the source of a lot of evil.
Yeah.
But other than that, Amrit, I think stories and identity and pieces of our identity that we have to confront, it's coming up all the time. And what we've really learned, so a process that we've been going through over the last year or two really is getting exceptional level of clarity about the people who we want to become ourselves. In all our programs and a lot of our own lives, we focus a lot on clarity. And clarity has been scientifically proven to be incredibly important for high performance. And I also think just for well-being in our lives, and it starts with like clarity in small situations where we're having uncertainty and therefore feel a bit anxious or stressed. And it goes up to like having clarity around who are we becoming and what are we creating here and what vision are we living into. And so for me personally, we basically have these alter egos, or these like written versions of the people we inspire to become, right? And always, like, when we make it a point to constantly go back to that and to reflect on where are we showing up as these people in our lives right now and where are we not. And usually any kind of misalignment lives within that and can be discovered in that.
Oh, wow, I think that's there's so much to talk to in that. Thank you so much for sharing, Jen. I'm really inspired by the fact that you've created your own avatar for yourself, and the inspiration is like that self-feedback, right? It's like not, perhaps this person inspires me this way or this person inspires me this way. And I think a lot of times we outsource our inspiration, but then we also, I guess, disenfranchise some part of our own internal power, right? We like disempower ourselves by empowering like the vision of somebody else. But if we can really tune into like, this is who the person we want to become, and on the journey, and then going on the journey, like you said before, like the energy of conquest, like coming through, who am I going to be on the other side of that? That's so amazing. It would be remiss of me to like in this conversation of stories and clarity, just to like then, drop that in with like endurance running, like, because I know that's like, for me personally, like I used to run half marathons every other weekend, but I was a bit of an idiot. I was running, you guys remember those barefoot shoes that were all the craze for a while? Yeah, so I was running with them, but I should have been running out on trails. I was running on concrete, and that wasn't smart. So I kind of got myself a few injuries and sort of put down the running and started with calisthenics, and my life's sort of been on that trajectory since then. But I remember like putting in so much endurance, and I just sweating. And I remember like I used to say this, like, if you don't have the answers after about 10 or 12 Ks, you're probably never going to get them.
Yeah, that's why they say, Amrit, you can learn everything there is to know about yourself and life in 26.2 miles or so.
Yeah, so tell us about that process, like, because surely like you must come up with a lot of stories, and even like just the basic stories for those that might be confronted by what you guys are doing, helping people like drop into like a leadership mindset, and just like, the story of just quitting, like how many times people would want to start their first marathon and like not even put their shoes on, they quit out the door. And then obviously when you're running miles and you're going into like the physical component of like the story that creeps up, which is like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? How does that work?
Yeah, so two parts to that. I'm going to start with my personal journey there. So until like about a year ago, I haven't run more than 5Ks. And so then there was a whole journey over the last year. We've run 3 marathons in the last 5 months, right? And I'm feeling that celebrated, but actually so many stories, right? I actually remember one time we were at a festival somewhere in New South Wales in the middle of the bush, and Jamin and I, during the festival, we had to go for a run that day. And so we headed out onto the main road, not a single car there, burning sun. And Jamin was running ahead of me generally because he's running a bit faster. And at some point, I was just feeling sluggish and tired. And suddenly, and at the same time, the marathon, the date of my first marathon was coming closer and closer. It was just maybe 8 weeks, 6 weeks away. And I was running. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, literally, it's not going to happen. Like, this is effed up. It's not going to happen. I can't do this. I'm not that kind of person. And I started like having an emotional breakdown, started crying, and literally sat down on the road. I was like, no, I'm striking.
Yeah.
And sitting there in my misery, and then at some point, maybe 10 minutes later, I saw Jamin coming back, and I'm like, no, he's not going to find me like this. And so I got up again and I tried to start joking again, but obviously it already caught up to something being not quite right. And so we had a conversation. I'm like, Jamin, it's not going to happen. And I was like, and our coach does this and this, and I was blaming him, and I was blaming Jamin, I was blaming everything. Right? And it's just, look, an hour later, everything was good again. Right. Yeah. But I'm still like, these moments still come up, and I have all the compassion in the world for everyone who is totally confronting these moments of, I want to quit in the pursuit of their first marathon, or really anything big in life. Right. Because the reason why we anchor a leadership program around a physical challenge is because the skills that we need to excel or to just complete that kind of big physical challenge that we may have thought was impossible are the same skills that we need for so many things in life, right? It's grit, it's resilience, it's also compassion, and really just learning about ourselves and what tends to stop us and how we can overcome that.
Man, I love that. It's like, that's what I really wanted to dive into, because it's not just an external 6 months, like, okay, we're going to rile everybody up, get you in the right mindset to run a marathon. Like you said, you're meeting people at interesting junctures of their life that are coming to you, they're like either like transitioning out of their career, or, they've separated from a loved one, or, something really interesting is happening in their life. And you've created this rite of passage, which is like, cool. So like 6 months of mentorship, and coaching, training, and going through a lot of your stuff. And then at the end of it, there's this, there's either the mountain or the marathon. But the interesting thing about that is, I know just by knowing you guys that it's not just, okay, so like you're tuning in every fortnight to just check how many miles you ran. I'm sure there's an aspect of nutrition and running in there, but I know like your passions and stuff, a lot of that would be deep diving into like what's coming up for you emotionally and your mental state and that sort of stuff. Does that ever cease to like fascinate you, like in terms of how much your internal world is reflected in the external?
Yeah, man. Well, I think the structure of the program, it will undoubtedly bring up the stuff that's going to get in your way, not just from completing the program, but it's the parallels of what stuff that brings up that we then contrast to where is that stopping you in other areas of your life.
Yep.
And I think so much of the journey of preparing for running a marathon or climbing a mountain, as Jen said, really is about that continual practice of showing up. Like we're inside of our coaching practice, we have one-to-one coaching and group coaching once a week with each of our members. And we've also got an elite coach from the US. He's a marathon and mountaineer coach who works one-to-one with each of our members, as well as a dietitian. Now, inside of this, we're really excavating, like, what is it that you are looking to move through as your personal outcome and reach by the end of this program. And then we really center our coaching around enabling people to get what it is that they're looking to transition into. Now, that will naturally have some certain actions that are going to be required for you to get that kind of breakthrough. It's not just about sitting there and visualizing a potential future, but it's really about getting connected to that potential future, that kind of like ideal self. But then that takes action. And often, as you would know, Amrit, and even yourself, having made that courageous move from having a high-paid, well-to-do job to then transition into something, or make that commitment into something where there's a whole bunch of uncertainty and unknowingness and unfamiliarity. That takes courage. And so much of the work that we do with our members is really about recognizing what are the actions that need to be taken to get the breakthrough or make the transition, and then providing them with the safety to discuss and share what is coming up for you in the face of potentially taking that action, and then recognizing all the stories that are in the way, and then just going, all you got to do right now, just do it. And then on the other side of that, on the other side of the fear is what? Really, it's just nothing but possibility.
No.
And so much, man, so much of our coaching and what we do is really about supporting people to step into courage and then discover for themselves who they are on the other side of that, which then ultimately has the mountain or the marathon. Sure, there are breakthroughs that come from taking on that pursuit, but really it's just the mountain or the marathon becomes a celebration of everything that it took to get to that point and be primed and ready to take that on.
Oh man, that's so awesome. I love the way you've distilled that process. And I have to say, like, you're reflecting on courage, and it's definitely the right word. I remember actually the year that I left my job for my own pursuits was basically, I always thought courage was fearlessness. Maybe I watched and I blame. Actually, I think I officially blame Braveheart movies. I thought William Wallace was just fearless, and he was right, and he was courageous. So I was just like, fearlessness is like courage is fearlessness, and it's like having no fear. And then I remember actually I was eating a acai bowl at lunch, like the randomest place, and I just happened to Google like the definition of courage. I don't know what was, anyway, something wiser than me was in me at that moment. And I remember reading, like, just off Google, the first response to courage, basically distilled to not having fear. It was totally having fear, but taking action anyway in light of that fear. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing. Like, that was a huge meditation point for me, which was just like, oh crap. Like, now it's like, oh, okay, I'm not here to be fearless. It's not about like pretending that these things don't exist. It's like actually acknowledging that, yeah, these things exist. Shit, can I lean into them? Like, can I move in towards like my resistance and stuff? And this is why I ask, the internal and the external, because there'd be so many things that, you're afraid of, like going deep inside to have a look at, but then also like the mountain that you want to climb, it's like also an internal mountain of this ideal self that you guys are sharing about.
Absolutely, man. And look, like the reality is so much of what you've done has demanded courage, because it's in light of the face of fear, right? Same with Jen and I, like having upheavaled our comfortable lives in Melbourne to then step into this pursuit with a really clear vision, but a complete lack of an idea of exactly how this vision is going to be fulfilled, and so much of it, yes, it's about acknowledging that fear is there and taking the action anyway. And then the other side of it, Amrit, is really having the faith that you're taking action that's in alignment with your values, and the universe is going to provide you with what you need to move towards where it is that you need to go. And, constantly Jen and I are sitting there in the face of uncertainty about the future of mountains and marathons, yet knowing that we're taking aligned action, and that there is some kind of, conspiring intelligence within the universe that's like going to, that will enable us to move towards where we're heading and what we're really clear on, who we want to be and what kind of future we want to create. We kind of leave a bit of it up to the universe to work it out for us.
I love it. We're going to call it conspired evolution. Oh, that's awesome. So I want to ask you guys, like, what has been your favorite place to run in terms of like just go through, like, not specifically for the run, but specifically for like the stuff that you managed to unpack like internally, which was your personal, because I'm sure like every run or every conquest has its own challenges that you overcome, but is there one that stand out?
Yeah, I think I can speak for both of us in terms of our really favorite run or race so far was the Mont Blanc Marathon.
Yeah.
And actually,
isn't that the one that goes forever?
Yeah. And I remember we talk about unpacking. That was a big one. So that was our first marathon that we've ever done. It was only 6 weeks after our first one in Australia. So there was our first international race, Mont Blanc Marathon in the region of Chamonix in France, in the French Alps. So first, just arriving there 2 weeks before was just such an incredible experience for us, because we both, actually at that stage, I didn't love mountains so much yet. I didn't have a strong connection to the mountains, but Jamin already really was connected to being in the mountains. And so I've actually had this experience, Amrit. The first day when we arrived in our Airbnb 2 weeks before the race, I went out behind our house, and there was like, it literally just went steep up right behind our house. And I went for a 1 hour run, right? Like up and down in total 1 hour. And I came back and I thought, I must have done at least 500 meters in elevation gain there. And I checked my Sunto watch, because unfortunately I had something that a technical device that exactly tracked what actually happened. And it was like 350 meters. And Amrit, we're 2 weeks out from a marathon that has an elevation gain of 2,800 meters. And I have, exactly like that. And I have literally no freaking idea how that's going to happen, because I haven't run mountains, haven't done much mountain training at all. I was just busy training for my first marathon on the flats, more or less, on the Great Ocean Road. So that every single day, going back into the mountains and facing the mountains again, and knowing they're going to push me back, and then ask for more. And they're going to ask for everything I've got, and it's not going to be enough to conquer as much as I want to that day, and still having the humility of always going back. That was an incredible process over these 2 weeks. And then the race itself, mate, it was still one of the best experiences for both of us ever. Like, it took me 9 hours to complete the thing. My first marathon took me 4 hours, 46 minutes. This one took me 9 hours and 3 minutes. And
it's a long time to be out there.
And I did have some emotional breakdowns. I cried on the way. Things happened, in the end. We came back together at the finish line. Jamin had finished 2 hours before me. And it was just one of the greatest things, and I think the most challenging thing I've ever done.
Yeah, fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. That kind of segues into something that I wanted to ask both of you slightly, but I'm just going to ask it anyway, which is, do you because obviously Jamin, being acquainted with mountains, there would have always been that, that sort of, you had this drop in, there was, I'm going to use the word lust, but it's probably not the right word, but the lust for the mountains, right? But do you, is there, surely on this journey you inspire each other a lot, like seeing someone that, had not ever ran their first marathon for only 12 months ago, and then now they're punched out 3 in a year, on this journey being together, you consistently inspire each other?
Every day, mate. Honestly, to have initially had that conversation 18 months ago when Jen, got home from work one day and said, yeah, we're going to do this together. And I'm like, right, so you're going to come with me and support? And she's like, no, I'm going to do the runs as well. I'm like, okay. All right, so how far do you run? And she's like, I've never ran more than 5Ks before in one hit. And I'm like, all right, we are on here. And, to co-journey together and really be I'm really clear on the man who I'm inspired to become.
Yep.
And I'm clear that Jen's clear on the woman she's inspired to be. And I'm endlessly, I'm always committed to listening to Jen as the person who she's inspired to be. And inside of that, there'll be days, and she listens to me exactly the same. And so there are days when I'm like, nah, I'm not running. It's cold. It's cold. Germany, please, give us some sunshine. And sure enough, Jen's like, no, you're gonna go. I'm just like, okay, what's that gonna take? And then, then there are moments when we're on a long run on a weekend together. They're often some of our favorite times, because we just get to be out there, in nature together, just running along the paths. And I'll just have these moments of of like, oh my, unbelievable, Jen. You know, you're the kind of person who literally, like, September 2017 could only run 5Ks, and now you're someone who has run 3 marathons in 5 months and comfortably, like, just puts the shoes on and goes out for a 2-hour run. It's like, that was never going to happen, you know? And even just seeing, you know, and seeing Jen have those moments of, like, emotional turmoil and an occasional breakdown, and then still being able to go, and you're still here and you continue to show up. And I know I can count on you in 3 days' time that we're going to be running again, because that's just who you are. So I think, yeah, man, there's endless inspiration that comes from one another. And I think from just me on a personal level, man, you shared it in the introduction, but yeah, I've had 6 knee surgeries. The first, the first was at 10, removing cartilage from my knee. The second was at 16. The third was at 16, again, removing cartilage. And this was at the source of a condition that I had called osteochondritis dissecans. Now, at that age, all I ever wanted to be was an elite athlete. And slowly but surely, year after year, that dream was becoming less and less of a possibility. At the age of 18, had my first knee reconstruction. 22, had my second knee reconstruction. Then by the age of 24, had my fourth knee arthroscope, totaling 6 knee surgeries. And so for me, man, like, there was always this, like, unfulfilled commitment to discovering what I'm physically capable of. You know, what is it that my body can actually can complete? And again, part of where mountains and marathons come from at the age of 26 was, like, I'm heading towards my late 20s. You know, as far as the human body is designed, you know, in all of its possibility, it also has its limitations. And it's been shown that people can reach their peak physical state at around the age of 28. And I was like, man, am I going to leave that as an unturned stone and something that I don't discover, or am I going to make a choice to see what I've got and what this incredible physical being is actually capable of? And so, you know, I sourced a lot of inspiration from, you know, being someone who had so many challenges in my younger years physically, but then going, you know, I think that's all just a story. And then just stepping into going, what is possible? And the truth is, Amrit, you know, when I started, like, there was a lot of story. There was like, dude, you know, I don't know how much cartilage you've got left in your knees, but, like, what's it going to take to run a marathon? And then it's like, what is it going to take to run a second and a third? And, you know, and now it's just like, being a runner is a new identity, and just having trust and faith that my body has what it takes to hold up is endlessly present. And I'm becoming more and more confident in and having greater belief in what my body, and I know Jen's the same, in what we're capable of. You know? And the other side of it is, man, like, as Jen was saying, one of our most inspiring and impactful times in this journey so far was around the Mont Blanc Marathon in France. And believe it or not, man, like, they call it the Mont Blanc Marathon, but 3 days before the 42.2K run that we did is the Mont Blanc Ultra Marathon. You know, and here we are at a campsite, you know, getting ourselves prepared, taking it easy a few days before, and we meet this 60-year-old guy, Jean-Luc.
Here we go.
And we're like, man, are you here for the marathon? He's like, oh yeah, I'm doing the ultra. And we're
92
like,
Ks.
we're like, mate, that's 92 Ks. This is a 60-year-old guy. And, you know, he was up at 4 a.m. To depart, and he arrived at like 2 a.m. 22 hours later. And, you know, and we see him the next day and just go, man, congrats. Like, the guy finished 30 in his age group. And I just look at him and just go, man, you have completely shifted my perspective of what's possible for a human being. And I thought, you know, I was inspired by Jen, and I was, you know, and somewhat inspired by myself for taking this on. It's like, this is just kind of like raise the bar of what's possible. So I think, yeah, there's a lot inside of making a commitment to taking something on that we have a sense that it's possible but have no idea how it's going to unfold. And, you know, whether that's transitioning into a new career or losing a whole bunch of weight or, you know, moving through a divorce, like getting a sense of what's possible and then just making the commitment and saying yes, and then just figuring out how. There's a lot of magic that comes from that kind of commitment.
That's brilliant. Commitment is such a deep word. And I think, especially when you were talking before, you were shedding lots of light on action. But I think commitment is equally as important to, you know, like when you, it's almost like you've got to have, I think there's almost like a whole syllabus in here as we've been talking. It's like the deep inquiry, right? That you guys referred to, and like that place of deep inspiration. And then obviously making the commitment, you know, like that day that Jem came home and said, we're going to actually do this together, but then actually obviously taking that action as well. All things that are reflected really beautifully. I want to ask is, one of the best books I've ever read was called Born to Run. And it just reflects that, you know, like so much of our human condition is like we were actually, like the title suggests, born to run, you know, and listening to your story, both of your stories, but also the knee surgery is coming again and again and again and again, you know, it's just like, that shifts a lot of programming in terms of just going, mate, how do you walk, let alone run? You know? And then you're just punching out multiple marathons, and like I said, just extremely inspired by Jen, like, man, like, what the shit? Like, how did you just go from there to there? And I was just like, it's amazing. And I think it's a testament to, I guess, the inner work, because, you know, you've been doing a lot of strategy and innovation and like internal work for people in the past as well. And I think that really must surface in a really poetic way. And I think it is a testament to how deep the work you've done on yourself is, and then obviously letting that show up in like the physical in a really like poetic way, in a real way. That's huge. I want to discuss the elements, which is, again, now this is me getting on my woo-woo self, but I can't not have this conversation with you. Like, the elements, you know, you're out there, you guys spend time in the sun as part of your work now, you know, like hydration is a key thing, and how do you breathe, you know? So you're supremely connected to the earth, fire, wind, and water. And does that factor into some of your thought processes, or how does that all go?
I can speak to that. You know, I've always had a really, you know, deep and personal relationship with nature. And there have been many a times when I've just taken myself off the grid and, you know, gone for a 6-day solo trek, just to really center and sort of distinguish the clutter from what's real. And I think for me, inside of this, I have these moments where there might be a whole bunch of anxiety coming up in me, or this sort of like fear and doubt about next moves or where things are at right now. And the, you know, separate from the actual marathons themselves, like the actual training for the marathons demands that I continue, or that we continue to get outside. And, you know, there are endless moments, you know, like weekly, where I'll be in a state of like, you know, where there's some physiology moving and some cortisol and adrenaline in the system that's unwarranted. And just being able to like to feel the sun, to see the golden leaves of you know, the German autumn, to have the rain on the face, to feel the wind on the skin, like all of these moments just get me back to what's real, and have me go, you know, at the end of the day, what I'm experiencing right now is actually more just an extension of myself, and I am, you know, we are actually part of the earth, and it's just so often just this monkey brain that convinces us otherwise. But my experience of running can be quite, it can be really centering and really grounding, and it's something that's a beautiful anchor in our weeks to remind us of that endlessly.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that reminder, especially as I'm having this conversation with you. What's being reminded in the back of my head is you're having that experience in Chile, but also in the Netherlands, also in Germany, also in Australia, in France, in China. Those elements are always ever present, right? And they're always connecting you to what's real. Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to start weaving out of the podcast, even though I feel like we're just getting started. I want to ask, before we weave out, I've never had to ask two separate people this question, so perhaps we'll go ladies first. But the last question to the podcast is always this. It's esoteric in its nature. And I guess it goes beyond the mountains, beyond the marathons, beyond the skin suit, beyond the coaching, beyond the name. Jen, who are you?
It's a big question, Amrit, and I'm actually on the journey myself to find out more about that and to create that, because I believe I'm the creation of my experiences, and I'm the creation of the people around me, and I'm also the creation of what I choose to become each day. And I have a picture of what I believe that will be in the future, and I'm very clear on what I'm working towards that becoming every single day. So wondering, are we only a spiritual being having the human experience? I'm currently exploring, like, is that true for me? Do I believe that's how the world works? That's the answer I can give you right now, Amrit. It's a continuous exploration, a continuous creation, and that's where I'm at right now.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. This is why it's weird to ask two people. Now, Jamin, you got to follow that.
Mate, I'm a country boy from Leongatha, southeast Victoria. That's right.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Oh, man. I think, look, I think the inquiry into identity is a big thing, because I reflect on who I have been over the past years, and I would have labelled myself with many different titles in that time. And as I'm maturing and evolving and getting deeper into this inquiry, I'm endlessly distinguishing the labels and titles that I give myself, that may feel empowering but actually become my ultimate limitation. For instance, like, my identity is now as a coach and as a runner and as a business owner. And it's like, well, is that who Jamin Heppell is? Well, sure, it's a part of who I am. It's kind of what I do, but is it who I am? And I think I identify strongly with that and find that a source of empowerment, but also continue to come back to knowing that is also a limitation. So who I am, man, it's an endless inquiry. It's an endless discovery. My main commitment is to just continue to distinguish the stories that I have about myself that get in the way of new possibility, and a deeper exploration of what I'm capable of creating on this world. And if I can be at the source of enabling other people to kind of go on their own journey of distinguishing that too, then I don't think there's anything that's going to bring much more fulfillment than that pursuit.
I've never actually done what I'm about to do, but I'm about to reflect something back, because there's two of you. But what I received, obviously not what you said, what I received was that it's about creating. It's creation, and creating your experiences with choice. Yeah, and then choosing your identity beyond its limitations. Yeah, that's amazing. Man, it has been such an absolute pleasure to share this time with you both today. I can't tell you how special it's been. I can't wait for the updates to come on the next run, and I'm so excited for China. Tell us a little bit about China for those that want to get connected to you, that want to get connected to what's coming forward. Can you share with us a little bit?
Yeah, man. So our upcoming program is called Conquer the Wall Leadership Program. And this is a marathon, or it culminates in a 6-day retreat held in Beijing that centers around a marathon on the Great Wall of China.
This is just like, now you're just doing stuff because you can.
We're just like, what is, the overall, Mountains and Marathons itinerary. The commitment is a marathon on every continent, and we're just like, what are some of the most badass marathons we can find?
So amazing.
Naturally, China's a place that both of us have wanted to go to. We know it's appealing to other people to explore that part of the world. And again, man, I think there's different ways of adventuring, and it's one thing to go and stand next to an incredible piece of architecture and take some photos and read about some plaques, but it's another thing entirely to experience the kind of discomfort that comes with the pursuit of a marathon, whilst being present to such an extraordinary human creation, or if it's Mont Blanc, that nature's creation with the mountains, yet having that such an immersive experience of what it's like to be there. So yeah, man, we picked this one. We thought it was pretty badass, and it's something that's going to tick off a bucket list for us, and we believe that there are others out there who would love to experience something similar. And yeah, man, it has the same leadership curriculum and program structure. Each of our programs, the main thing that differentiates is the location and the mountain or the marathon. And yeah, we're pretty excited to be stepping into China and taking on the Conquer the Wall Marathon.
That's awesome. And for those that are perhaps maybe not China, or maybe yes China, but like, how do people get in touch with you in terms of finding you guys online?
Yeah, sure. So our website is mountainsandmarathons.world. Yep. And we're also on Facebook as Mountains and Marathons. We're on Instagram as @mountains and marathons. And really, we can be contacted. We're constantly on those channels. We can be contacted by any means there.
I'm glad you're online, because it seems like you're in a mountain or a marathon or running a marathon every other week. So it might be difficult to find you physically just out there. But man,
yeah, we don't have a stable phone number.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys, not just for today and obviously your energy and sharing yourselves here. I'm really glad I got to have a chat with a couple that's consciously creating, their next offering to the world together, and also like being inspired by each other. But thank you so much for today. But also, success and greatness doesn't all occur in a day. So thank you for everything that you've put in, all the miles, all the what you guys are co-creating, the trust and the love that you have with each other as well, and everything that's gone into the work where you are today, the courage that it's taken to walk an alternative path. And then you guys are doing it with such grace, and it's so awesome what you guys are creating. It's ridiculous. And on the gratitude list, and all the best for what's coming forward as well. Just wishing you guys all the best always as well. And I'm looking forward to, I can feel this is probably just the first chat of many. So yeah, excited to have a chat soon again.
Awesome, man.
Likewise, Amrit.
Yeah, equally grateful, man.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to share our story, and I think it's something that we as humans need to do more often, is share our story. So thank you for creating the platform for us to be able to do this and share what we're most passionate about.
Love you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Love of the Inspired Evolution and sharing the Love of the Inspired Evolution. If you feel like this content has supported you, or may support anyone else that you know may resonate with the content of it, please share away and share the love around. Thank you guys so much. And to stay up to date on whatever's coming out with the Inspired Evolution, please subscribe. There's all these links in the bio for you to tune into the episodes and all these different platforms, just so that message can get to you and your loved ones. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Stay inspired to evolve.